Welcome to the first part of Chapter 11, Section 2. You should have your textbook out. Take a look at page 602. You should have your notebook out and do the problems along with me. We are not just talking about the edge of the circle today. We are going to be talking about the whole circle, the inside, the area of a circle. And guess what? The area of the parts of a circle. Remember the word for that? Sectors. So we are on page 602. You should be there as well. I'm going to do numbers 1 and 2 there, and then I'm going to do numbers 3 and 4 on page 603 with you. So let me turn to my notebook. All right, now, of course, you're going to copy down that core concept. In fact, I actually want to point out on the top of page 602, I have never seen this before, and I thought it was a pretty cool way of showing how they figured out that the area of a circle is pi r squared. So you should read that. Breaks it down into triangles from the sectors. It's pretty cool. But we're moving along. We should be familiar that the area of a circle is pi r squared. We've definitely used it before in class. So let's just, sharpen our skills. Take a look down at number 1. Refresh our memory. Find the area of a circle when the radius is 4.5 meters. Now, units are going to be important here. All right, so they give me the radius. I'm going to use the formula. Notice I'm not drawing right now. I think we have an idea of what a circle is and what a radius is. It is going to be important when we get to sectors. But for now, area is pi r squared. In fact, you know what? Let me put that meters in there. What's going to happen to it? Why is area a certain unit? So let's go to our calculators. I'm going to start with 4.5 squared and then times it by pi. Remember to use the button for pi wherever that is on your calculator. We are going to round to the nearest hundredth, and that's going to be about 63.62 meters squared, or square meters. Notice that. I squared the 4.5. I squared the m. What is m squared? It's m squared. So what does that mean? Meters squared or square meters. If you like to be a little different, you could also write out square meters, or even write out the word meters. Up to you. All right, number 2. Find the radius of the circle if the area, is 176. Again, you should be in your book. Don't just follow along with me. You know I make some little mistakes that eventually I hopefully catch. Okay, so it is 176.7 square feet. I wrote it like this. Notice your book spelled it out. How are we going to solve for r? Well, are we going to square root both sides first? I hope you said no, because we have to divide by pi. We got to get that variable that's being squared by itself before we can square it. Okay, so we have 176.7 feet squared divided by pi. Obviously, I'm not typing in square feet. I'm just going to do this divided by pi. Okay, so 176.7 divided by pi is that number. I'm not going to write the whole thing down, but I am going to write a little bit of it down just so we know what to do algebraically. Okay, I got to get that r by itself. What's the only thing over there with it? It's a square. And how do you undo square? You square root it. So we're going to square root both sides now. Now, it depends on your calculator. If you round it to the nearest hundredth at this point, and that's how you have to go forward, that's fine. My calculator can save previous answers. So I want to square root this whole number. I'm going to do square root, and then find on your calculator, see if it has it, this ANS. Now it's in yellow on my calculator, which means I need to press the yellow button and the negative sign. And if I hit answer, I'm going to get the approximate feet that the radius is. And if I round to the nearest hundredth, I'm actually rounding up to 7.5, which is a tenth. So I'm getting the radius is about 7.5. Now, what is my unit? The square root of 56.25 is about 7.5. What's the square root of feet squared? Well, just like over here, the square root undoes the squared and we're left with r. The square root is going to undo the squared and we're left with just feet. And of course, radius is a line, so we measure it in feet, not square feet. For those of you that did the square root of 56.25. I just want to see what we get. Oh, okay. So we approximated here, and it works out nicely where we just get 7.5, which is an approximation because we approximated from here to here, if you had to plug it in that way. All right, so that's just using the formula a equals pi r squared. They either give us the r, we square it, multiply by pi, we get the area. Don't forget the square unit. Or they give us the area, we divide by pi, then we square root the whole thing, and don't forget just the unit. All right, let's talk about population density. On page 603, there's one good example for population density, but we got to go to the top of the page. Population density, something you might hear in the news, is going to be the number of people, not hashtag people, the number of people over the area of land. How dense is it? You would expect somewhere like downtown Los Angeles to have more people per square mile than maybe you would expect Joshua Tree to have fewer people per square mile. So the density in Joshua Tree you would expect to be lower than the density in downtown Los Angeles, for instance. So let's see how that works out. Number 3, we have about 58,000 people. That's kind of quaint. Living in a 2-mile radius. All right, so basically we have some intersection somewhere and we're just doing a radius around it of 2 miles. Excuse me, 2 miles. So what is the area of the land that these 58,000 people inhabit? Well, if we want to get area, we know the radius. It's pi r squared. What's 2 squared? It's 4. What's 4 times pi? Well, right now it's just 4 pi. And I'm going to write P for population density. So let's take a look. Now remember, if you think back to what I was showing you in the previous section, we either can do it in our calculator, the entire denominator in parentheses, and get the right answer, or we can do it step by step. 58,000 divided by 4, enter, divided by pi, enter, right? We're divided by 4, and we're dividing by pi. And so we get, of course, math makes sense, we get about 4,615 people per square mile. We're not talking about half people here. People per square mile. In fact, I probably should have written miles squared here and people up here just to get my units correct. So 4,615 people per square mile. Other ways you can write it. You can write it out in words, or you can write people per square mile horizontally. This is just 1 square mile, so you can write it, people divided by square mile or people per square mile. Okay, let's see what happens for number 4. I'm going to have to turn the page. We need to keep in mind population density is number of people divided by the area of the land. We have a region with a 3-mile radius, and the population density is 1,000 people. Now, since I'm doing this in math, per square mile, find the number of people. So over here, I'm looking for the number of people. I'm going to call it N since I used P already as population density. So here's my population density. That is equal to the number of people per area. So if I have a radius of 3 miles, then my area would be 3 squared times pi. Okay, let's keep in mind what we're solving for here. We're solving for N. My variable is being divided by 9 pi. How can I get 9 pi to the other side? I hope you said multiply. So let's multiply over here by 9 pi over 1. Let's multiply over here by 9 pi over 1. Oh, look at that. If we multiply by 9 pi, the 9's cancel out, the pi's cancel out. So I just have N. And then over here, I have 9 pi times 1,000 people per square mile. Oh, wait a second. How am I going to get rid of the miles squared? Well, wait a second. I don't have 9 pi down here. I have 9 pi miles squared. And what if I multiply by miles squared on both sides? This is why units are important, because then you have to get rid of the right units. So multiply by 9 pi miles squared up here, multiply it by up here, the miles squared cancel out, And now, to make it less messy, I have 9 pi times 1,000 people. Is that what I'm looking for? What does the question ask me to find? The number of people. So 9 pi times 1,000 is 9,000 pi, but of course we're not going to say, oh, I have 9,000 pi people in my city. We're going to say we have about 28,274 people. All right. Don't forget the unit. The unit is people. All right. So population density is the number of people per area divided by area. All right, so that's the first video. I'm going to come back with one more video for chapter 11-2, area and sectors. So we're going to learn sectors next. There'll be some practice problems for you to do. Take some notes with questions that you might have that you want to discuss and ask of me.